Now you're watching Gearz.
Hey, welcome to Gearz. We have a great show for you today because what we have here is one of the most popular body styles of pickup ever built, the 55 through 59 Chevy. And it's also what we call a classic barn find. Now, this is exactly the way I found it. We haven't cleaned it up, we haven't prepped it, we haven't done anything to it. This is exactly like I rolled it off the trailer. You've got to experience this thing. First off, the body is covered with an almost perfect patina. The grille, the cab, and the bed show just a few signs of damage, which is very rare for an old farm truck. And other than a few rust spots in the lower fenders and the cab corners, this thing has remarkably solid sheet metal. The interior is completely stock with the original bench seat and the rubber floor mats still in place. And underneath, the original floors are in really good shape with just some surface rust here and there. This is also very surprising for a 50s truck. Matter of fact, other than the typical mouse house and the glove box, there's not much evidence that anyone or anything has been in here for a long time. Of course, under the hood is just as clean, with no rust or damage, and the old straight six is sitting in the exact location that it was bolted in back in 1959. Which makes this a perfect project vehicle. But the question is, what direction do you go with it? I mean, literally, you could get this thing running and drive it just like it is as a patinaed vehicle. Or you could restore the paint and the interior and drive it as a restored vehicle. Or you could stick a V8 in it and have a resto mod. Or you could do a complete frame off. And these are all things that we've covered in the past in the 5 levels of restoration and why it is so important to decide the level and the direction that you want to take a project before you ever start turning wrenches on it. This way you don't lose focus and end up running off in all kinds of directions. Okay, with that in mind, as cool as this would be as a patinaed vehicle, as cool as it would be as a shop truck or as a resto mod, that's not the goal for this old Apache. No, the goal for this is to make a wicked hot rod truck with some serious power under the hood so it can dole out some bad medicine to anybody that messes with it.
Right turn, Clyde.
But it still has to be something we can drive every day with modern traffic. And with this kind of suspension, the old original brakes and steering, that ain't gonna cut it, especially if we put power under the hood. So to build the truck that we want, we're gonna have to jump all the way to a level 4 and build this thing from the ground up. Okay, so you've decided that you want to do a frame-off build. What exactly does that mean? Well, it means that everything that you're looking at here has got to come off the frame. So you got to have the tools to do it, and you got to have the place to store it when you do. But before you start taking things apart, let's talk about the original frame under here and why you may or may not want to reuse it. Now, as you can see, even on a truck that has this solid of sheet metal, the hardware that holds the bed and the body together is definitely going to be nasty, rusty, 60-year-old hardware. So it's definitely going to take some time and some patience and plenty of penetrating lube to get all this stuff apart. A quick look underneath the truck shows that there's not only plenty of crusty hardware under here as well, but you also have this old 1950s C-channel frame. Now, to make something like this strong enough to handle modern power and driving, the frame will need to be boxed and fit with modern suspension front and rear to replace the old leaf spring and beam axle setup. Now, obviously, all of this stuff can be done. There's plenty of aftermarket support for it. And we've shown you how to do it on numerous projects over the years. However, in the past, if you weren't a fabricator or if you didn't have the tools to do this kind of surgery, you were either out of luck or you had to pay someone to do it. Today, there's another option.
In a world of economic uncertainty, there will always be a need for quality tools and people who can use them. That's why becoming a Cornwell tool dealer is one of the best career moves you can make. With routes available all across the nation, it's a great way to be your own boss. Supply high-quality tools to professionals and make some real money. If you're tired of working for someone else, have the drive to succeed, and want a career that can be successful no matter what happens on Wall Street, there's a Cornwell tool truck with your name on the side.
Hey, welcome back to Gearz, where we are about to do something drastic with the frame on this old '59 Chevy truck. We're going to replace it completely. Now, I know a lot of you guys are thinking, okay, why in the world would I do that with all the costs that's involved when the aftermarket is full of all kinds of suspension components that will allow you to rebuild your stock frame and put in modern suspension? That's a really good question. So let's look at the benefits of starting with a brand new frame and why the cost in the long run might be cheaper to go this way than to rebuild your original stuff. Total cost involved went into business in 1974, and they were one of the first companies to offer upgraded front and rear suspension systems for old cars. This was instrumental in igniting the street rod craze, as people were looking for ways to make their old 30s and 40s and 50s cars handle and drive better using modern suspension components instead of junkyard parts. But the innovation didn't stop there. For the next 5 decades, TCI has remained on the cutting edge of aftermarket chassis and suspension systems, not only for street rods, but they've also developed performance suspension products for classic trucks,
Kissed the cone right there,
muscle cars,
but it stayed up. This is 39 already? Oh, 40.1.
and even late model vehicles to make them all handle better on the street, the drag strip, and even the road course. However, since the weak link of any old car has always been the stock frame, a modern aftermarket solution was definitely needed, and TCI jumped in with both feet. Let's take a look. It all starts with frame rails being plasma cut from 10-gauge steel in the proper profile for the application. Then the rails are MIG welded together in a jig for pinpoint accuracy. The welds are then cleaned up with a grinder, giving you fully boxed rails. And finally, the suspension cross members are added, and the frame is finished up according to your specs. And this is what it looks like when it rolls in off the truck. A bare metal frame set up for your project, ready for you to go to work on. Let's take a look at some of the details here. The front suspension on our frame is set up for modern upper and lower control arms, rack and pinion steering, and sway bar. They'll even add the proper motor mounts if you tell them what engine you're going to be using. In the center, you have this super strong cross-member system that not only adds rigidity, but TCI will also add the brake booster and pedals as well. And speaking of brakes, you can see that the whole chassis is completely plumbed with stainless steel brake lines, AN fittings, residual and proportioning valves, everything. And finally, the brackets to mount the cab, as well as the hangers for the 4-link suspension, the coilovers, and the sway bar are all TIG welded in place and ready to go. To bring that old original frame to this level of strength and performance will take a lot of time and money and could end up costing you more in the long run than just buying a new replacement frame.
A successful automotive project takes planning and organization, but instead of using an old tablet or notebook, there's the Gearz Deluxe Project Planning Book. This was designed to help you lay out a project, the parts, the tools, costs, and keep it organized with colored tabs, a pouch for receipts, and even a place to attach photos. If you decide to sell the vehicle, it serves as a complete history of what's been done. If you have a project or plan on starting one, the Gearz Project Planning Book is the best way to lay it out and make it happen.
Hey, welcome back to Gearz, where we are looking at a new way to approach a frame-off build. Now, in the past, you'd get the old vehicle, you'd blow it all apart, you'd get that old nasty frame out of there, and then you'd spend time fabricating and building and making it modern so you could drive it. Now, there's a different approach. You can get a brand new frame from places like Total Cost Involved. Now, we've shown you how Total Cost Involved sets up their frames and how they build them to fit your specific application. But you don't just get a frame here. No, you get all the suspension that goes with it. So now comes the fun part, bolting all of those cool parts onto this frame. The first step is to install the heavy-duty upper and lower control arms. The upper control arms have a special offset cylinder that allows caster and camber adjustment. This eliminates the need for shims. Next comes the sway bar, and it bolts directly to the crossmember with the ends pointing toward the front of the chassis. We'll follow that up with the Ride Tech adjustable coilover shocks with the spanner ring at the top and the adjustment knob facing out at the bottom. This orientation is important for proper fitment and adjustment. As with all these components, they come with special hardware to bolt them on properly. Next, we'll install the spindles, and TCI sends them with the Wilwood hubs and disc brakes already installed. So it's just a matter of bolting the ball joints to the spindles. And at this point, we're just snugging everything down. We won't torque things to spec until final assembly. The new power rack and pinion unit is next, and as you can see, it bolts right to these brackets that are welded right to the crossmember. It also has a C-notch cut into the frame to allow room for the rack and the tie rods. The last piece to hook up is the sway bar, and it comes with adjustable heim joint ends that connect the ends of the sway bar to the lower control arms. Okay, that finishes up the front suspension. Now what we've got here is a fully plumbed, state-of-the-art, high-performance front suspension that's fully adjustable, fully serviceable, and able to give you hundreds of thousands of miles of service. But the best part is, the fact that we're using a TCI frame and a TCI front suspension means that it bolts together as quickly as what you just saw. Yeah. All right, let's move to the rear. For the rear suspension, the first step is to position the new Curry 9-inch Ford rear end in place. And using a dolly will definitely make this easier. If you don't have one, we showed you how to build one a few years back. The next step is to size all of your 4-link bars. Now, the preliminary measurement from TCI is 21 inches center hole to center hole. But keep in mind, you might need to tweak that a little bit to set your wheelbase and to adjust your pinion angle. And these adjustable ends will allow you to do that. Now this adjustability and of course the incredible strength are just some of the benefits of going to a 4-link suspension. Now, one of the issues that you'll run into with a parallel 4-link like this is you've got to have something to keep the axle from moving laterally side to side. And that is where a pannard bar comes in. Now, usually a pannard bar bolts to one side of the frame rail, travels across, and then mounts somewhere to the rear end. The problem with a traditional panhard bar is it sits right where you want to run your exhaust. So we're not going to use a panhard bar on this. This particular TCI suspension uses a triangulated track bar. This is how it fits. A special clevis is bolted to the front lower link on the driver's side and another to the rear lower link on the passenger side. Then an adjustable track bar bolts to the clevises. This triangulates the parallel forelinks and effectively stops all lateral movement of the axle, but it still allows the rear end to move up and down freely. Pretty slick setup. Okay, with the links and the track bar in place, we're ready for the coilovers, and those bolt to the rear end brackets and the upper cross member. Now, since modern hot rods have got to be able to go around corners as well as go in a straight line, having a front sway bar is imperative. But having a rear sway bar is also important. That's what this tube is for. A spline shaft slides into it, and then aluminum arms fit onto the splines. Then the ends of the arms connect to adjustable links that bolt to special bolts on the upper link bars. This gives us a fully adjustable rear sway bar that works with the movement of the rear axle. Okay, with the sway bar in place, the final step is to install the matching Wilwood disc brakes to finish off the rear suspension.
If you like cars, if you like coffee, you're gonna love Gearz coffee cars. Because in each pack, you'll find a special blend of rich, robust coffee to get your blood pumping, as well as a collectible cartoon sticker and matching photo card of some of the wildest vehicles Stacey has built or featured over the years. Collect the whole series and be sure to keep an eye out for the ultra-rare Strange Brew card that are added to random packages to keep things interesting. It's Gearz coffee cars, the best bean on the car scene. Can't get enough Gearz? Make sure to check out the Tales of a Gearhead podcast, where Stacey brings a lifetime of automotive knowledge, friendships, and expertise to the listener. Also, check out our social media channels for updates and videos of Gearz projects, as well as special contests, giveaways, and events. If you have a vehicle you want to enter into What Are You Working On, go to staceydavid.com and submit it. There's also the online store and tons of other Gearhead information that will encourage you to get out there, build something, and go drive it.
Hey, welcome back to Gearz and our classic Chevy truck project that, believe it or not, we have already started a ground-up build on. Now, if you've been following along, you know that this is a new TCI frame and chassis that was built specifically for our '59 Apache project, and it's loaded with some of the best aftermarket parts in the industry. Now, I know this frame looks like it's done, but unfortunately, this is just the pre-fitting stage. So everything is just mocked into place. Nothing is torqued to spec, nothing is greased, nothing's painted. And the reason that you do this is this allows you to fit other things into the frame that you might want, like a battery or a fuel tank. For example, this is the fuel tank that we're going to use. We got this from LMC Truck, and it's designed to bolt right under a stock frame that's got the C-channel, not a boxed custom frame. So there's going to be some cutting and welding and drilling that's involved in making that fit. So be prepared to make some changes. Now, once you have all of your pre-fitting done, then you can blow it all apart, do your painting and your powder coating, and then put it all back together and torque it to spec. Now, I know some of you guys may be looking at this fancy frame and thinking, okay, so what is the real comparison between that and me rebuilding and updating my original chassis? And the biggest difference is going to be time and money, because TCI can put one of these frames together for you in about 4 weeks. And as you just saw, you can put it together in about the time it would take you to pressure wash your vehicle. So the savings in time and money can be substantial, especially if this is your first frame off build and you don't know what kind of surprises you might be finding. But make no mistake here, there is still a ton of work to do here. You still have to build a vehicle. All a replacement chassis does is give you a major head start in the right direction and a much better chance of finishing the project. And that's the whole point here, for you to build something that you eventually get to drive down the road and enjoy.
What are you working on? Brought to you by Woodward Fabrication, selling quality metalworking equipment since 1966.
Today's What Are You Working On comes from Tyler, and he is from Milton, Wisconsin. And his project is a 1973 Checker gasser. Now that's two words you don't hear very often together. Check it out. Now, he always loved the Checkers. He just loved the utilitarian look. He says that it looks like they took a 58 Chevy and a 58 Rambler and blended them together using all of the worst parts. That's great. It's true, and he didn't care. He loved them. So he decided he wanted to get one. Now, as soon as he got it home, he realized that he had gotten the most rotten, nasty, rusty Checker in existence. The floors, the rockers, the frame, everything needed to be replaced. So the work began. Now, since he was building a gasser, he pretty much built a whole new chassis and frame for the car, and for the front axle, he used a two-wheel drive Jeep Cherokee axle because he didn't want to spend the money at Speedway to get their gasser axle. Yeah, because he's on a budget here. Now, for an engine, he knew this thing had to have a big block Chevy in it with a 4-speed. So he's building the engine himself, and ultimately it's going to be a 468 big block with a 4-speed behind it with a tunnel ram and 2 4s. Yeah, it's got the right look. Now, the body was next, and of course, like we said before, it was a mess. So he ended up completely rebuilding the body. Look at all of this metal work that they had to do. Now, he says at this point, it's been a pile of work, but he says it has been so worth it to save this car from the crusher. And he says when it's all done, he can't wait to drive it down the road. Now, he still considers this a budget build. He says he's only got about $4,500 in this thing, including the purchase price of the car. Man, great job. I love gassers, and I've always loved Checkers too. So to recognize the work that you've done, we're going to give you one of these super bead rollers from Woodward Fab. This is a manual bead roller. It comes with a whole bunch of dies so you can actually roll beads and flanges. And we're also going to give you a Gearz fender cover so you can protect the paint of a nice car. And then we're going to give you a Gearz project planning book. This is going to be important to keep track of everything that you've done to that old Checker. Then finally, we're going to give you a copperhead die cast and a pack of Gearz coffee cars. That way you can enjoy the coffee and see what collectible sticker there might be inside. Now, for the rest of you guys, if you want to get in on this and get your projects featured on the show, you got to send them to us. Go to our website, go to Gearz Nation, and submit it into What Are You Working On? The website's also the place to find out more information on any products you may have seen on the show, any Gearz merchandise, and how to join Gearz Nation. Also, make sure you check out our social media. That's Instagram, Facebook, TikTok, YouTube, all at Official Stacey David. YouTube is also the place to view all of your favorite Gearz episodes, as well as the Gearz Restoration Series and our full project builds that follow a project from beginning to end. And finally, if you're a radio person, be sure and check out our podcast, Tales of a Gearhead. All right, that wraps it up for us today. Tyler has some work to do. I've got a bunch of stuff to work on. Now it's your turn. Get out, find yourself a project, and start working on something. We'll see you next time.